this short demo, we're going to be looking at test cases and test procedures. Before I jump into that, let's recap what these are. So, test cases describe criteria for testing, and what we mean is the criteria for testing is specific requirement, what the inputs would be, what the execution conditions should be, and what the expected results should be. So that's what should be encapsulated by a test case. A test procedure is a description of how you actually run the test cases. So what we'll see is test cases are linked to requirements because they describe the conditions that are needed to test those requirements, and test procedures linked to test cases because they are the method for executing them. Let's click on test cases. This puts us right down into our test case list, and we're in our controller board hardware item right now. And you can see we have a number of test cases. Looks like we've got, how many? 11 of them. Let's take a look at one of these. Let's pick maybe item number 6. Test case number 6. Testing the sensor's ability to distinguish between passenger entry and exit motions. Okay? Like source that we talked about in a previous demo, these test cases don't exist within PACT, but we are making PACT aware of them for documentation and control purposes. So what we have here are records of each of these things that again can be linked more tightly if you use GitHub or GitLab and set up those integrations. In this case, we've got a record of our the 6th test case, and the important things to know here: we have our test case ID, we have the purpose of the test case, we have a description of what we're going to be doing, whether or not it's a robustness test case. Those are linked to robustness requirements. If there's any links to conceptual design or requirements, so a test case has to be testing something, so it has to link to something. Let's look at what it's actually linked to. So let's make sure that this is the correct requirement for this test case. When you're reviewing all of the stuff, you would be clicking and reviewing all these things to make sure that they're set up properly. So this requirement, which pops up in a different tab here, so we can easily go back and forth between the two. This requirement basically says the system's entry and exit motion sensor shall be capable of distinguishing entry from exit. So yes, that is the correct requirement that we want to be linking to. Like all of the other lists, we have our action buttons over here. We can show more information, we can edit, we can mark as deleted. Let's do a quick edit. Let's see what we could do if we edited this. We have our test case number, the ID, the purpose, so we could add more information. For example, we could add what inputs are required, what are the execution conditions, that kind of thing. It looks like we have expected results already in there. If it was robustness, we could link to that. We could change our test methods, link to model files, and other types of things. Let's see here. So those are our test cases. We could do the same types of things, exporting them, importing from another source, renumbering up prior to taking baselines. I don't really talk too much about baselines. I'll have a separate demonstration for that, but basically any objects that you're going to be reviewing need to be baselined at some point. And then we can go back or undo. Let's go up a level and take a look at the test procedures for this design. So let's click on test procedures. And what we can see, we're probably at the very early stages right now of setting this up in this design. Looks like we only have one test procedure, described as test procedure number 3 for some reason. It's got an affiliated VHDL file. So remember, the test procedures are how you execute the test cases, and we actually have it linked to 2 different test cases. So we could, to make sure those linkages are correct, we could click on them to make sure, and this pops up again in another window, so you can take a quick look at those test cases to make sure those are the ones you want to be running. You could edit, which, let's see, do we want to do that? No, I don't think we want to do that in this case. We could export, import, again, renumber, the same types of things. So the main thing is that the test cases describe how you test the requirements and they link to requirements. Test procedures describe how you execute or actually link to the files that execute the test cases. So all of that is going to be captured and documented and reviewed, and we'll take a look at reviews in an upcoming demonstration.